Everybody loves superhero team-up flicks. The Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Justice League.
You serious?
All these proves that team-up films will get people hyped no matter what. With them come a multitude of different creators helming the titles, but one man has done a surprising amount of them, and that's James Gunn. Not only making the Guardians trilogy, he spearheaded the DC universe in a new direction with the Suicide Squad, a 2021 film that proved DC could rival Marvel by taking their guy and making him do a team-up film for them instead. However, Marvel is doing its own spin on the bad guys go good trope with the Thunderbolts, and I've been privileged enough to see it. So with the recent release of the Thunderbolts, I figured I'd compare these films to see which baddie team reigns supreme, the Suicide Squad or the Thunderbolts. Now, we need to get some slight parameters to know what to discuss here. With both of these films, I wanted to split them into 3 categories, with that being story, how well is the story told, is it engaging, is it noteworthy, characters, how developed are these characters, are they worth caring about, and finally, team chemistry, how funny or realistic is their team interactions. All of these will be ranked out of 10, with the total dictating which film is better. So now that we have that out of the way, let's dive firstly into James Gunn's The Suicide Squad is such an interesting film for me. Taking one of the worst DC projects ever assembled and then rebuilding on it with mostly the same cast, but making it 10 times better and more interesting of a film is wild work. This film just oozes creativity, fun, and darker storytelling without losing a sense of humorous intention. I find the story of this film quite captivating. Since it revolves around the Squad, it's very mission-oriented, basically thrown into a country where its politics raise concerns to America. What else is new? They have to stop the leaders there from unleashing a cosmic threat that destroys the planet, specifically Starro, this massive starfish. And what's crazy is that the cosmic nature of this movie works so much better than whatever the hell Enchantress was in the first one. I loved seeing how this story progressed, opening up with not only a hilarious sequence, but that misdirect of seeing every new character get killed off right away was brilliant. It also showcased everyone's kind of unique talents in a way. This movie is like a soft reboot of the previous, so it needed to redo some backstories for certain characters, like Bloodsport or Peacemaker, 2 star-studded standouts. Throwing them into the whims of Carton Maltese just let the story progress in a very fun and engaging way. One of my favorite scenes is the characters just vibing in a bar in the middle of nowhere. Letting characters have some fun together really builds that bonding momentum. The whole reveal that the Americans were actually behind the Starro project and the real reason for the Suicide Squad's involvement was to cover up for them was great. I thought it added a lot of conflict for certain characters, but was also something that seemed natural to me. Turning Peacemaker's mission on flag was really engaging and led to one of my favorite fight scenes in the film. This movie has such a distinct tone, but can really lock in on those serious moments when it needs to be. That whole build up to Waller's staff knocking her out so the team could save the Maltesians was great, and that final battle, for what it's worth, was excellent. The final line by Starro being,
"I was happy, floating, staring at the stars,"
is so sad, and that's more development than a starfish from space needed. I was dumbfounded, but the team dynamics and its characters is what keeps this movie cooking with gas. The first character I wanted to talk about was Bloodsport, someone that basically took the spot of leader from Deadshot in the previous film, even going so far to have kind of similar themes and elements to each character. However, Bloodsport is written very well here. I enjoyed seeing the little triggers that made up his character, like rats being a phobia of his due to his mistreatment as a kid from his father. Letting Waller showcase her stone cold side by leveraging his daughter was also very interesting. You can tell how much this character sees things in the gray, but has good sides to him that are shown once the Starro battle happened. I felt like characters that were used in the previous movie were way better here. For instance, Rick Flag, I enjoyed him a lot more in this film. I especially liked how his love for his country centered a main conflict between him and Peacemaker at the end. Rest in peace. Harley was utilized a good amount here. Y'all already know how I feel about how Harley's been treated in recent times, but in this film, I thought she was used quite well. Margot Robbie's performance is really engaging. Is she given a whole lot of depth? Not really, but it's her interactions with others that makes it fun to watch.
What's with the javelin?
I'm waiting for God to tell me.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, or him.
Now, Peacemaker. Awesome addition. His consistent belief in managing peace leads to so many great jokes.
Nothing like a bloodbath to start the day.
They call you Peacemaker.
I cherish peace with all my heart.
I don't care how many men, women, and children I need to kill to get it.
However, as a part of his character, it's a very consistent belief, having to kill Flag and almost Ratcatcher too, just to maintain that peace within nations. I feel like that's a really interesting thing. Polka Dot Man, for what it's worth, was given much more depth than anyone familiar with him would have thought. Seeing his trauma for his mother affect his day-to-day, leading to hilarious jokes, but actual mental health problems, was pretty crazy. This falls into Gunn's forte, where he takes these obscure-ass characters and uses them in a way that makes them as human as possible. Like the one scene with King Shark where he's talking to fish just like him. There's barely any words said, but it's so engaging. Or when he looks into the city pondering the lights of the town, digesting that human life through a glimpse of these intimate moments that Gunn likes to use. However, the most nuanced character in this film comes in Ratcatcher 2. I was not expecting so much exploration into her character and her motivations, but man, she was very well written. I enjoyed seeing the film explore her relationship with her dad, giving Bloodsport a mentorship kind of role since he saw a lot of his daughter in her. The whole bus ride sequence where they dive into her backstory is incredible. And Jesus, this line is wild.
Rats are the lowliest and most despised of all creatures, my love. If they have purpose, so do we all.
They cook it with gas! This character just radiates a ton of depth, and it's very well done. I really love this line because I feel like it sums up her character perfectly.
If I die because I gambled on love, it will be a worthy death.
Now, the team chemistry is fucking brilliant. I laughed so much while they were interacting with each other, it's insane. Peacemaker and Bloodsport's constant competitive nature made for so many hilarious sequences. The Carto Maltese fight, where they go back and forth killing people, was so good. For a team of like 6 to 9 people as the film goes on, I feel like many of them had great banter and screen time. Different characters interacting and going back and forth with one another. Flag, Bloodsport, and Peacemaker taking down the convoy was dope as hell. That trio went crazy. Harley's back and forth with Flag was very fun, considering they're the only two from the original here. Polka Dot Man being that weird guy in the back who everyone secretly likes but makes fun of was so much fun to watch. King Shark just existing as a talking point for the team was great too. As I mentioned before, the whole club sequence was a 10 out of 10. It demonstrates all of their personalities so well. It was just a fun moment to watch. A team movie's ability to work is solely bonded on their chemistry, and the humor, vibe, and constant interactions were fantastic. One last thing I wanted to mention was just how beautiful and stylistic this movie is. There's so many different camera techniques used, fun colors, and beautifully shot sequences here. Fun editing tricks, great action sequences, and powerful acting that make this film work really well. Given all these feats, I'm giving the story for this movie an 8 out of 10, characters an 8 out of 10, chemistry a 9 out of 10, putting this movie's score at 25. Can the Thunderbolts beat this? It's time to find out. You wish you had one of these bad boys to open right now. I know you do. If you're enjoying this video, guys, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 25,000 subscribers, and if you want to be a subscriber before we get there, now is the time to do so while we're on the grind. And once we get to 25K, that's when I'll reveal a massive, massive, massive project. So let's get there as soon as possible. The Thunderbolts story has a lot of strong elements to it. I know a lot of reviewers are calling this the best movie since Endgame, full of heart, wit, and surprisingly emotional. But like, it's not wrong. Much of the story revolved around loneliness, depression, not being fully understood by others, being exiled, and dealing with heaps of trauma for past mistakes. Marvel took a swing at this, and honestly, they got a base hit. It worked for me. The premise of this movie is around Valentina DeFontaine. Remember her from The Falcon and the Winter Soldier and the post-credits scene of Black Widow? Yeah, that's what I thought. However, this movie does a good enough job of keeping you invested, even though you most likely haven't seen anything prior to this with these characters. Besides Bucky. Her political position puts her in a place of power, which the story revolves around. Her past uses of characters like Ghost, Black Widow, US Agent, brings them all together so she can wipe clean all her dirty laundry, can't be impeached in government. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say this movie's politics is incredibly well written or concise, but I at least was able to see that they thought carefully about the optics of it and handled it in a way that made sense and wasn't kind of cringy. Using assets to kill each other and then trying to kill them to cover evidence just makes sense. And the first scene where they all meet is so cool. The fight sequence between all of them was executed so well, I loved it. Rest in peace, Taskmaster. You will be forgotten amongst a sea of other Marvel heroes wasted in the films. However, the politics behind her actions being set in motion due to the Sentry Project was pretty cool. It's the standard superhero backstory of person gets powers through horrific experimentation. But I think what sets this apart from others others is the development of trauma and mental health expressed in that. And I liked the visual language this movie uses in exemplifying mental health with superpowers. It was a cool touch, and Sentry was a good character to do that for. Sentry is a broken kind of character, so seeing the others who are also broken in some way was cool to see. My biggest fear going into this film was how is a group of non-superpowered beings going to stop a god? You know, we've seen that nonsense before, but how it's handled here was fun and surprising to me. Diving into the trauma of a superpowered god is a huge swing for Marvel. Well, at least in phase 5 of Marvel, and I thought it was done very well. There wasn't an unnecessary amount of jokes covering an emotional scene, ruining its tone. I enjoyed watching Elena have to navigate through Sentry's void in order to comfort him. Seeing the team bond together as one to help Sentry overcome his darker half had me emotional, man. It's a feeling I think a lot of people struggle with, and it was handled with care in the film, thanks in large part to the characters too. Now, certain characters are handled way better than others. However, I'd like to start off by saying that I liked every character in the film, so there wasn't any characters that had me annoyed or hating, which in today's Marvel age is shocking. I'd like to first start off on the characters who are written very well, and first up is Yelena. Her story of overcoming loneliness, that void of nothingness in you, feeling lost and alone, was great, especially when it's mirrored with Bob's broken mental state. It led to some great one-on-ones together. The final act where Bob is showing her all her worst memories, seeing ones she loved get killed, or watching young girls get whipped because she was better than them at a certain task. Just crazy stuff to dive into, and I really appreciated seeing that. Added a lot of layers to her. Seeing her worst moments in visual form was pretty gut-wrenching. Seeing her open up to her dad Alexei and just break down after so much loss and pain, I mean, thanks to Florence Pugh's phenomenal acting, it was sad. But seeing that emotional resolution right after was really well done. Especially, as I said before, pairing it with the emotional damage of Sentry, mwah. Like I said before, I was kind of scared of what they were going to do with him, but as a new character, he was executed brilliantly and has some of the most dedicated sequences in this film. Slowly watching him develop over the film was a sight to see. You witness this broken man realize how powerful he is, see how lost and alone he feels, how his torment is being used against him by people of power like Valentina, and then he just breaks, letting void out. Moments where he's with Yelena near the end just choke you up. Seeing Yelena comfort him and make him realize he's worth it, having friends who care about him and that he wasn't alone, was awesome. Louis Pullman also acts the hell out of this character, man. Subtle facial expressions, the way he speaks, it's all very, very well done. I just love how he may have these insane powers, gets put into this fancy superhero outfit, but is a man on the inside broken. He won't feel powerful no matter what. It's a great juxtaposition to Steve Rogers' origin in the first Avenger, which just so happens to have Bucky in both of them. Now, the super soldiered heroes get more depth than others. With Red Guardian, he gets a proper continued developmental relationship with Yelena, which, as I mentioned, was very entertaining. He overcomes his battles of feeling useless and unknown to the world, and finally gets his face on the Wheaties box. David Harbour is a scene stealer in this film, and it doesn't go unnoticed. He just makes things funnier in a way that doesn't come across badly either. He brings a real sense of authenticity when it matters, and then can up the ante and bring motivation too. It's done really well. Now with Walker, he was probably my most anticipated hero coming into this after realizing he was not at fault in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and was totally misunderstood. I highly recommend you check out this video on it because it totally changed my perspective on him. This is a great video, by the way. And for the most part, I'm happy with how he was used here too. I'm glad the fall of his Captain America days still affected his everyday, making him feel as useless as the rest of the group. His comedic timing was great, and I'm glad they at least included a shot that his family just up and left him after he couldn't handle the normal life again, since Captain America stole all of his mental space. Other than that though, he's kind of pushed aside. I wished they dove deeper into the relationship he already had with Bucky, because they know each other already. Worse yet, they fought each other multiple times. I feel like their relationship was never resolved that well. Now with Bucky, this film rides on the fact that if you've seen previous movies, you already know him. They joke about it religiously, how he has a dark past, Winter Soldier, and it's funny. I think it's funny. However, if you never saw the MCU and knew none of these characters, this movie will have you lost on who Bucky is entirely. I really wish they dove into Bucky's relationship with Walker here, and his past as the Winter Soldier using Void. Void shows everyone's dark side. One scene with Bucky reliving and seeing Winter Soldier should have been included in my opinion. I feel like every single person on the Thunderbolts should have had a scene in the Void, or at least a small section, because how it's done in the movie, it kind of just feels like they just show up and save the day. It doesn't feel like they really overcame anything in The Void. And look, I know he's already overcome his problems in the show and all these other movies, but man, it's still a part of him. Sure, he's outgrown it. That part of you just doesn't leave you. And I think a scene of him not falling for Void's harmful traps would have been very valuable. It also would have just been really cool. I mean, Winter Soldier versus freaking Bucky, that would have been so cool. Also, I think a scene with Walker should have been used between them two. Where Alexei and Yelena resolve their issues, I feel like Walker and Bucky should have had a one-on-one after the whole group splits up near the end. They're two people with similar situations, and after working together multiple times now, it would have been nice to see Bucky treat Walker with some respect finally, after treating him like shit in all of the previous show. These two little moments would have elevated their characters for me in this entirely. Now with Ghost, I mean, she's there. She's got some cool fight scenes, but poor girl got shafted in Ant-Man and in this too. She's easily the least developed character of the Thunderbolts. And again, I think a scene in The Void showing her traumatic childhood would have been nice to see, because she's very one-dimensional in this movie. At least she's not Taskmaster. Lastly, I thought Valentina was a great character too. I mean, is she a phenomenal villain? Not really, but she's also not really the main villain either at the same time. She kind of fits in that category of Justin Hammer and Iron Man 2. Not as good, I mean. Justin's got those crazy dance moves. But I liked the slimy nature surrounding her character. She gives Cecil vibes from Invincible, and if you've seen this movie, you'll know exactly what scene I'm talking about that reminds me of it. Now, the team chemistry I thought was hilarious and great. The bunker sequence in the beginning of the film with Ghost, Bob, Yelena, and Walker was so entertaining to watch. The humor and comedic timing between everyone is very engaging. Like I said, I didn't feel like cringing when watching this film. I feel like one thing I can give this movie a leg up in is the humor. I actually didn't really cringe at all in this movie compared to some jokes in the Suicide Squad not landing for me.
Starfish is a slang term for a butthole. Think there's any connection?
The Bucky and Red Guardian intros to the team were super fun to watch. Moments where Red Guardian and Bucky talk about their super soldier serums was funny. Walker screaming at Alexei while the car gets shot up, or just the random one-liners Ghost makes towards Walker, all lend itself to some funny moments that left me entertained. The actors do a really great job all around. They really feel like people. You know, just shooting the shit. Felt like I was watching real people interact after a while. And I'm excited to see where the team goes in the future. With that post-credit scene, I mean, we got some interesting shit coming ahead. I really don't want Marvel to just one and done this team. I'd really like to see more movies with them. Some other things I wanted to mention were the action sequences in this movie. As mentioned before, the opening bunker sequence was handled really well. But another awesome moment was when Sentry fights the Thunderbolts in the tower. Makes me realize that Sentry is literally unstoppable unless they use the kill switch, which, by the way, is that still in him? Like, bro's got to get that out of his head. But also makes me wonder how Marvel is going to nerf him somehow in Avengers Doomsday, because, you know, it happened to Thor already. I'm sure it's going to happen to Sentry. Camera work in this film was nuts too. There's some really awesome one-ers, dynamic movements from the camera, and especially in the Void sequence, it kind of felt horrific in a way, like had horror vibes to it, and I really liked that. All in all, Thunderbolts was a great time. In terms of story, I'd give this movie an 8. Characters, an 8, and team chemistry, an 8 too, bringing their total to a 24 out of 30. Now, I really like both of these movies, and the Suicide Squad eerily beats out the Thunderbolts due to a deeper focus on other characters' motivations and nuance. I feel like smaller characters in the Suicide Squad had more attention given to them compared to, you know, the Thunderbolts, which had a main character that didn't really have any depth at all. Both of these movies are a ton of fun though, and work for what they're going for. The Suicide Squad showcases what a world of James Gunn looks like, and the Thunderbolts will leave you excited to see another new team in the MCU again. What a time to be a superhero fan, baby. But what do you all think? Do you agree with my takes here? Let me know in the comments below, which movie do you like more? And while you're down there, hit that subscribe and hit the like button. YouTube likes when you do that because it'll push this video out to more people like you who enjoy these types of videos. Also, hit that notification bell so you can be notified whenever I drop a new video. That's all for me today, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.